community gathering today to take a stand on reparations for the Black community. Advocates say it's the first public show of support by clergy for reparations in Boston's history. In 2022, Mayor Michelle Wu formed the city's Reparation Task Force. Clergy members speaking today are demanding that the task force consider $15 billion in payouts to the Black community, specifically targeting home ownership, the educational achievement gap, and violence. They're also asking historically white churches in Boston to join in on the process.
Today we call upon this city, its financiers, and its white churches to stop the shirking, stop the lying, tell the truth, and pay what is owed.
We ask them to publicly commit to a process of reparations where they will extend their great wealth, their tens of millions of dollars among some of those churches.
Absolutely.
Boston's Task Force Reparations Committee is currently in phase 1 of 3. In January, they announced the research team that will work on the report documenting the city's ties to slavery.
There's more.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I gotta tell you guys, the pro-black woke revolutionaries are gonna be upset once again. They're gonna be mad at this video that I'm doing because we gotta talk about reparations. And you guys know it is election season, okay? It's 2024. Elections are coming up around the corner. Democrats are trying to get reelected. So they're going to bring up this conversation of reparations, okay? They're going to entertain the demands of some of these woke activists in these liberal cities who are begging, in this case, white churches and the city of Boston for reparations, right? They want a check, okay? They want the white man to cut them a check, okay? They want their oppressor, who they claim has their boot on their neck, to take their boot off their neck and to give them a check, right? $15 billion, right? But according to these activists, $15 billion is not enough, okay? And they're begging the city of Boston for a reparations handout. And again, nobody should be surprised that they're entertaining this, that the Democrats are entertaining this going into election season. Again, Boston, they have the mayor election next year in 2025. Mayor Wu, who is super woke, is up for re-election. So again, they want to make sure they can do anything they can to try to buy votes. And this is a part of it. This reparations conversation comes up every single time Democrats need that black vote. Without further ado, let's get into it.
The topic of reparations continues to be debated within the African American community as well as City Hall. Well, today in Roxbury, the topic often got heated.
Now, keep in mind, this is the neighborhood of Roxbury in Boston, which, is a neighborhood that we have talked about because you have stores like CVS, Walgreens. They are leaving neighborhoods like this in Boston and in all of these liberal cities because of too much crime and theft. Now, instead of the black residents in Roxbury being concerned about these businesses leaving, which hurt them, right? It hurts their job opportunities. It hurts their local economy. Instead of being concerned about that, being concerned about the soft on crime policies that have contributed to these businesses leaving, no. They want a reparations handout, which should not be a surprise because, again, these are the same individuals that were begging, I believe it was Walgreens, for a handout, I think $10 million or something like that, because they were leaving, right? So the store operates unprofitably because of all the crime in the neighborhood. They decide to get up and leave, and the residents boohoo, whine, and cry and demand a handout payment because the business is leaving the community, right? As if the business has an obligation to stay and to provide for the community, even if they can't make money, even if they can't robbed out of business. You can't make this stuff up, right? I mean, when we talk about priorities, this is what I'm talking about. Priorities are not in the right place, right? They're focused on everything except what they should be focused on, which is to vote these Democrats out of their jobs, out of their positions, and to vote into office politicians that are going to be tough on crime and allow these communities to economically thrive. So I just want people to keep in mind the neighborhood that these people are protesting in.
I'm born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts. I can't stand this country to what they did to my people.
Wanda Hervey isn't alone in her frustration. One by one, members of Boston's African American community stepped up to the mic to tell a commission on reparations what the term means to them.
Reparations is cash, it's land, it's education, it's these other functions that are included. It's not just money.
Nah, it's just cash, bro. It's just cash, because let's keep it 100, right? Let's keep it 100. Okay, these people are never going to be satisfied until they get a check, right? It doesn't matter how much money you pour into government assistance programs or education, as long as you are not giving these people a check, like an actual, here's a check, okay? Here's your $5 million you think you're owed, right? Whatever. They're never going to be satisfied. They're going to continue to ask for more and more and more and more. And even if you give them the check, they're going to come back a few years later and say, well, you still owe us more, right? Because slavery, the benefit for the white man from slavery and the amount of damage done to black people is incalculable, right? It is an unlimited amount. So therefore, you owe us into perpetuity, right? Until you decide to give these people universal basic income into perpetuity, they will ask for more. They will always ask for more. There is no end to this, okay? This is why you continuously see these stories about these activists demanding these massive payouts, right? Like in this case, 15 billion, and then go on to say, well, even if you gave us that, it's still not enough. AKA, even if you give it to us, which is not going to happen. It's never going to happen. But even if you did give it to them, they are going to come around and tell you it's not enough. You owe us more. These people, they want to be paid into perpetuity. That's what they want. That's what they want.
Longtime Boston City Council member Charles Yancey gave the room a history lesson on reparations promised to slaves after the Civil War.
The enslaved people of this country were promised their share of the wealth once the Civil War was over, and that has yet to happen. Let's set the tone for the United States of America right here in the city of Boston.
There is discussion among this commission and white churches in Boston to invest $50 million into the black community.
We acknowledge the truth of violence perpetuated in stolen lives, stolen land, stolen labor, and make a commitment to work with you to uncover the truth and work for repair.
Yeah, so you do have a group of guilty white churches that have decided, hey, you know what, we're going to give in, right? We're going to give in. We're going to give you your 50 million, okay? We're going to give you your 50 million. We're going to invest it in the black community. Now, I'm not sure exactly what that means in regards to investing in the black community. I'm not sure exactly how far it's going to go. All I know is that whatever investments that you make, if you don't clean up the crime, right? If you allow these neighborhoods to be plagued by chaos because criminals are allowed to do whatever they want to do, they're allowed to rob businesses, out of business, then it's gonna be a waste of money, right? It's gonna be something that's not really gonna make the impact that it should make, okay? But again, hey, I always say you can't put the cart before the horse. If you really want to make the black community great again, right, so to speak, if you want to really invest in these communities, the first thing you have to do is clean up crime. Okay, if you don't clean up crime, if you don't get the criminals off the street, it doesn't matter how much money you pour into these communities, it's not going to help. But these people, again, they don't want to have a conversation about that, right? They really should be protesting the crime, right? They really should be protesting for law and order. Once you do that, once you establish law and order, then we can start to have a real conversation. If the white churches want to give their $50 million away, if they want to set it on fire, right, in order to relieve themselves of guilt, that, let's be honest, again, they're never going to actually be relieved of that guilt, because again, the activists will come back and say, well, 50 million is not enough. You got to give us more, right? You're guilty, okay? But hey, at the very least, it seems as if they are seriously considering giving the money to the black community, which is something that, hey, I can say BLM, Black Lives Matter, didn't do, right? They took the money and ran, okay? It seems as if these white churches are more generous than Black Lives Matter. So, hey, I guess you got to give them some credit there.
Number $15 billion awarded to Boston's African-American community has been part of the discussion, but that is far from done. The head of this commission describes how they came up with that number.
15 billion, which is not enough. Every life is incalculable. We think about tens of thousands of slaves who died in the midst of slavery in Boston. How do you put a number on that? They died in slavery while their white counterparts flourished.
Yeah. Again, I hope this guy also goes to West Africa, right, and also demands that the Africans that sold our ancestors into slavery also pay up as well too, right? They need to pay their fair share too, okay? Because without them, the white man would not have been able to be as successful as he was when it comes to the slave trade, okay? I mean, if you actually really read and learn about the slavery that happened over there in Africa, okay, before the white man showed up, I would make an argument that it was actually worse. It was probably a worse set of circumstances, okay? Slavery bad, regardless of, who's your slave master, okay? I don't want people to get it twisted in terms of what I'm saying. But I would make a strong argument that being a slave in West Africa at that time was terrible, okay? It was an absolute terrible thing. I mean, they would routinely, they made a routine out of castrating their slaves and then, shipping them off and selling them to the Arabs or to their neighbors or whatever. And they did this in order to keep the slaves from being able to reproduce, which means that if the Arabs or, anybody else, if they wanted more slaves, then they would have to rely on the Africans, right? They couldn't just breed their own slaves because their slaves were castrated. They couldn't reproduce. Again, it was a horrible evil that we don't talk about enough, right? We don't talk about that enough. But again, you don't hear these people ever complaining about the people that, in my opinion, committed the original sin. Okay. And then when you look at the ending of the transatlantic slave trade, well, the white man, right, they're the ones that fought to end that. Okay. When the Africans wanted to keep the slaves, they wanted to keep profiting off of it. They loved it, right? It allowed them to get weapons from the white man that they then used to turn around and kill each other, right? And you never really hear that side of the story. They don't really want to tell that side of the story. But again, I find it to be fascinating how, a lot of these groups that are demanding reparations, they don't go back to West Africa and say, listen, give me all of your resources, okay? Give us all your gold, give us your land, you owe us. But for some reason, they don't want to go over there and to protest about that. Even though, again, they claim that they're owed this stuff, right? So if you're owed it, you think that you go to everybody that owes you something and demand what you're owed, right? But it's just the white man. Even though, I would argue with the Civil War, with the Civil Rights Movement, the anti-poverty programs, affirmative action, there's been things that this country has done in order to try to fix the problem, in order to try to pay black people back for what happened during slavery. Now, am I saying that it's perfect? No, it's not perfect. Okay. In fact, if I was alive during the Reconstruction era, then yeah, I'll be one of these people that said, yeah, black people need to get their reparations. However, since we're 150 years removed from it, I think at this point in 2024, considering all of the resources that black people have in this country, just given the fact that you are an American, I think that we're past this conversation. And we need to move on to more productive conversations that actually really have a chance of producing some type of meaningful results. And I really do believe that starts with getting tougher on crime in some of these neighborhoods so that law-abiding black people and businesses can thrive again in these communities. That's where you have to start first. But nobody ever wants to talk about that because, again, they think that black people committing crimes is solely a result of being wronged by the white man throughout all of history. This is what they think. So they don't want to actually really do anything that, again, in my opinion, would produce meaningful results.
We have spoken to the mayor about this topic. She's put together a special task force within City Hall to study this topic and come up with recommendations on what continues to be a very controversial topic. We're live in Roxbury.
Yeah, so it's the old okie doke, right? It's the okie doke. Now, this mayor, Mayor Wu, she's smart enough to realize that this is never going to happen. Boston budget is $4.6 billion. Tell me how in the world are you supposed to give a cash handout of $15 billion to a group of people with a $4.6 billion budget? How are you supposed to, even if you put aside $1 billion a year, which is a ridiculous amount, okay, considering how it's about 1/4 of the budget, right? So you put aside 1/4 of the city's budget per year to give to black people for reparations. You're going to be paying it for 15 years, okay? $1 billion a year. That's 15 billion. And then after you get done paying it, they'll come back and say, no, that's not enough, right? It's incalculable, right? Which is what this guy said in the video. He said exactly what I told you guys. It's never going to be enough. Even if you pay it out, even if you give them 15 billion, which is a crazy amount of money, it's not enough. After you pay us, we're going to come back and ask for more, which again is why I think this conversation is a waste of time. I don't think it's going to happen. I think what Democrats do is that they pour the old okie doke. They say, okay, well, we'll entertain the conversation. We should study it, right? Let's study it. I'm not sure exactly how much they need to study this, okay, in order to come to the conclusion that they're not going to give out the reparations, because that's ultimately the conclusion they're going to come to. But hey, they say we're going to study it. Just elect us so that we can keep studying it, and we might give it to you. We might, okay? You got some cities out there that are moving towards it. We might do it too. And then after they get elected, all of a sudden they're going to say, nah, we're good. We can't do it, right? And that's exactly what happened out in California. You guys remember all the stories out of California where you had all these individuals in San Francisco begging for billions of dollars. And then they say, okay, yeah, we're going to study it. We're going to study it. And then Gavin Newsom comes out and says, nah, we're good. We're not giving you guys reparations, but thanks for your vote. We appreciate that. Okay, that's what's about to happen here. But hey, what do I know? Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.